Okay, so again, we are the Office of Minority Student Affairs, and really today we're kind of dedicating this presentation to talking about a lot of mid-semester information, right? So things that'll be very relevant to you kind of in this part of the semester as we get into it. There we go. So OMSA's mission is to provide exceptional support services that enhance the academic achievement, personal development, and graduation rates of first-generation, low-income, and historically underrepresented students at Illinois. So really, those three are the kind of groups of students that we're charged to serve. But I like to reiterate that our services are open to all students across campus. It really is those first-generation, low-income, and historically underrepresented students that we primarily focus on, but again, our services are open to students. So that's kind of a common misconception that comes up quite a bit. I did link OMSA's website here that includes pretty much all of the information around who we are, the different services we provide, maps, locations, really a lot of useful information there. But I'm gonna go into it a little bit here so that you can have an overview of kind of who we are and what we do. So to start, all of our services have transitioned to online. In the world of COVID, we just decided that it was the safest option for all of our services to transition to online. So we've actually had the great fortune of being able to carry over most of the services that we had prior to COVID just in a virtual landscape now. But this is the contact information for our office. So we have two locations that I'll talk about a little bit further in the presentation, but this is just an opportunity to see the contact information now. And of course, any campus updates that come through will be posted on the COVID-19 Illinois site. So definitely just for campus-wide announcements, look there. But for particulars about our services and what we do, definitely refer to our website or contact one of us directly. So to talk about our two locations, we have a main office location, which houses the Office of the Director, our Human Resources, and our 4 TRIO programs. And that's located in the Turner Student Services building. The contact is OMSA at Illinois for that, and there's the phone number there. But for all of our academic services that we provide, so our tutoring services, our advising and mentoring services, that is housed in our Academic Services Center, which is located in Urbana. It's going to be right across from Cranert and right around the corner from that Urbana Mary Ann's, which I found out recently is actually closing. So we can no longer refer to it as around the corner from Urbana Mary Ann's. But for the time being, that's kind of how we direct students to us. So just a couple key points with that. We have transitioned to all online tutoring, which I'll talk more about later. But the tutoring is offered Monday to Sunday from 9 a.m. to 10 p.m., but it is subject to tutor availability. And so to see all of the schedules and all of the tutor availability, you can do that through TutorTrack, which I'll talk a bit more about. But another keynote here is that our tutoring services and our skills workshops are not offered during the summer, on holidays, or when classes are not in session. So to talk about the Academic Services Center and kind of the services we provide, so in the virtual landscape, these are the things that we can offer. In a traditional setting, there's typically more things that we can offer, but for the time being, just with capacity, with availability, these are the things that we can. So we are continuing our tutoring, but it is in a matched tutoring manner. And so you'll be meeting with the same tutor on a weekly basis for that same course, same time, really just to work through the course material. Students actually really benefit from this structure because it gives them a very structured way to work through the course, and it's very consistent in their schedule. It's just something that they have on a weekly basis that they're used to, and they kind of develop the rapport with the tutor as well. In addition to that, we offer academic skills consultations, which I'll talk a bit more about, but it is sitting down one-on-one to work through different skills. So, note-taking, test-taking, those types of things. In addition, we offer final exam review sessions and workshops upon request. But really one of the bigger services that we provide through the Academic Services Center is our drop-in advising services that we really encourage students to take advantage of. So that's Monday to Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. We have a full-time staff member on duty, ready and available to answer any questions you may have, whether it's about grad school prep, career development, leadership skills, personal issues, all of these types of things, any questions that you may have. Again, a full-time staff member is available to sit down with you and work through those questions during our drop-in hours. So to talk more about our tutoring services, I like to bring up this point a lot. I think it's often overlooked, but college tutoring is intended to help students successfully adapt to university courses, right? So as you all know, definitely transitioning from high school into college, there's quite a bit of difference in just how courses work and really how much of the work is outside of the classroom. So we'll talk more about this later in the presentation, but just to reiterate that tutoring is not a remedial service. It really is just to benefit you and to make sure that you can successfully get through your coursework and maybe start to navigate some of those things. But again, our tutoring structure is going to be that matched tutoring format. And to sign up for tutoring, you can do that through TutorTrack, which is the tutoring management system that we use. So you could do the tutoring sessions as well as the individual skill consultations through TutorTrack, which is linked here. Just a quick note that often trips up a lot of students. You log in with your NetID as the username and then your UIN as the password. So not your typical password that you use with your NetID for other sites. It's going to be your UIN for the password, just in case that comes up later. So to talk about our individualized study skills consultations, so these are really the four that we focus on: the time management, textbook study strategies, lecture note taking, and test taking techniques. And again, you can sign up for this through TutorTrack. You'll be sat down individually to kind of work through these consultations, talk about your personal situation and skill set, and learn about different ways that you could potentially improve on that or build upon the things that you are already doing. Another resource that we have available to all students is STUDENTLINGO, and these are online workshops available 24/7 to students. Again, you log in with your NetID and UIN as the password, but there is so many workshops on there, and they actually recently added a handful specific to online learning. So if you're finding that you're struggling with some of your online courses now, it's a really good resource, completely on your own time. You can start, stop, any time of the week. Again, it's just a resource available to you online 24/7. So this portion of the presentation, we're really going to zero in on that 8-week portion of things, right? So talking about your experiences thus far as a student and some important things that are going to be coming up in the not too distant future. So as we approach the halfway mark of the semester, really these questions are for you to just kind of pause and consider them. So the first is, what is my learning style and how has it evolved from the start of the semester? So kind of a little bit of what I talked about there of how have things changed since high school? How have you adapted your learning style? How have you been navigating your different courses, whether it's, higher demand in time or in some cases maybe lower demand in time? Really, how have you been navigating that? And so there's actually a couple STUDENTLINGO workshops listed here that you could refer back to afterwards. But these points are really just things to start to think about. And maybe, if you decide that there's something you want to work on, you can, reach out to one of us or your academic advisor to kind of start building up on these skill sets. But the next question I have here is, what study skills, note-taking strategies, and tips have you developed? So in a lot of situations, you may not even realize that you started to develop these different skills. They kind of start to come passively as you're getting through some of your coursework. But taking a step back to acknowledge what those things are and maybe take a moment to think about how you can improve them can definitely benefit you in the long run. And so the third question I have here is, how have I learned to manage my time and develop a healthy work-play balance? And I specifically put it as a work-play balance because there really needs to be some type of balance between those two things. It can't all be work. It can't all be play. There has to be a balance of the two in order for you to kind of maintain your health as one, but also maintain your academics as a student at the university. So really thinking about how you've been managing those two things. And again, it could really be something that you haven't thought much about, but being intentional about thinking about these things can really help you when looking to the future. And so thinking about, different student life and wellness resources. So this slide really is dedicated to just listing out those resources to you. But the point I want to drive home here is that you really need to focus on your health and wellness extends beyond just the physical and mental. I listed financial resources here because, as many students come to discover when they get to college, things are really expensive. Books are expensive. Course materials are expensive. So how are you being intentional about managing your finances, managing your resources, thinking about your financial aid, scholarships, loans, really thinking not only short-term, but also long-term with your finances there. So there's a bunch of resources here. I always say defer to the Office of Student Financial Aid because they'll most likely have the answer to your question. And especially if you're doing anything relevant to, changing hours and those types of things, be sure to reach out to financial aid and your advisors before making those decisions. And I'll probably say that about a dozen times throughout this presentation, but just making sure that we're driving that point home. In addition to that, so some physical, mental wellness resources, we have the Counseling Center, McKinley Health Center, we have DRES, which is Disability Resources and Education Services, and Campus Rec, which Campus Rec also offers a lot of different workshops, nutritional things, strength training type courses. So there's more to it than just going there to work out or just run on a treadmill for half an hour. There's definitely a lot of additional resources there. So the next part we're going to talk about when things don't or do go as planned. I think it's important to acknowledge that sometimes things could be going really well, and when things are going well, you may not necessarily know what to do about it. I always say that the first step is to contact your academic advisor as soon as possible, whether things are not going as planned or things are actually going really well. And the reason being is that a lot of different things are very time sensitive. And so sitting down with your advisor, being intentional about taking that time out of your day to even meet weeks in advance and talk about these things really will set you up for success. So here I just say, sit down with an advisor to discuss your status and create an action plan. And it is always, 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 always recommended to connect with an advisor before making schedule changes. You'd be surprised, and Pam's going to talk more about this later, but you'd really be surprised as to how some of these very subtle changes can actually have drastic effects and drastic impacts on your financial aid, on your scholarships, on many different things. So it's really important that you meet with an advisor before making these changes. And again, it's important to take the time well in advance to do these things. But some of the questions that you could bring up during these sessions is, what happens if I drop this course? Will a schedule change affect my financial aid package? What resources are available for this particular course? Or even if things are going well, maybe if there's an opportunity you learned about and you want more information or resources on, or in some cases just to get connected to the organizations, because sometimes it can be a little intimidating to navigate that conversation. That's definitely someone you can reach out to for that. So step 2, which is extremely important, and I cannot emphasize enough, is actually sticking to the plan that you make with your advisor. It's important that when you're making this action plan to list out tangible steps you can take and make sure that each step is narrowly defined to the point where you can say, check the box, you did it, you're done, and you can move on to the next thing in your action plan. But I put it in red. Make sure to follow through on these points that you and this action plan that you make with your advisor. Really, the goal is to get through all of those steps and put yourself in that good position. And the only way to do so is to actually do the things you said you were going to do. And again, it's really important to reach out to your advisor regularly and keep them up to date on where you are in that action plan so they can help keep you on track as well. And so a couple of examples of action steps are things like, I will attend office hours on these days. I will commit an extra hour to studying. I will follow up with my advisor on Tuesdays at 1 p.m. So really that's specific in the sense that, did you meet with your advisor on Tuesday? Yes? Great, you're good. And step 3 is look to the future. So after you've worked through your action plan, after you've kept your advisor in the loop, and if things weren't going so great, you got yourself in a better place, or if things were going well and you're in an even better place, really it's important to look to the future. So asking questions like, do you know your registration time ticket for next semester? Have you been looking at courses on the Course Explorer to see what you might want to take? Have you sat down with an advisor to build your schedule? If you're thinking about a different college or major, have you taken the time to look at what those requirements are and what that timeline looks like? And in addition to that, are you being mindful of your employment, extracurriculars, co-curriculars, basically anything in and out of the classroom thinking about how you're managing your time and how those time commitments are going to change as you progress, right? So maybe later in your academic career, your courses may take up more time. And so what are you going to do to balance that out with the commitments that you already have? And really just kind of talking a bit more about the registration and the time ticket. You will know well in advance what your time ticket is. And so it's really important to sit down in advance and already have your courses planned out, and maybe even some backups in there as well. On the Course Explorer, you can go right in there and get all the course registration numbers. And I'm old school, I'm traditional in the sense that I like pen and paper. I like to write it out in an actual weekly calendar and have all of that stuff prepped and ready for whenever, I go to register for courses. So that's just a pro tip from when I used to do it. But again, just being prepared and looking to the future for these different things. So as you're looking to the future, you can also look at opportunities outside of the classroom. And so I only listed 4 here, but there's actually a bunch well beyond this. And again, meeting with an advisor to talk about those opportunities is probably the best way to get connected to them. But if you're looking at different internship or career opportunities, definitely reach out to the Career Center. If you're looking at different study abroad opportunities, or maybe even some scholarships to study abroad, definitely Illinois Abroad and Global Exchange. If you're an undergrad who wants to dip their toes in research, then definitely reach out to the Office of Undergraduate Research. And of course, if you're looking to get involved with registered student organizations, we have a site that lists them all out with the executive board contact information and all of those different types of things. So there's a plethora of resources, there's a plethora of opportunities to get involved in. So definitely, if you have the opportunity, you feel like you're in a good place academically, then definitely start to look at these different opportunities. This slide just lists out all of the different college advising lists. So each college, the link connects you exactly how to get connected to an academic advisor. So all of that's listed out here. And I forgot to preface with this, but we will share the slideshow with you afterwards. So don't worry about scrambling to write these down. You'll have access to it after the presentation. To talk a little bit about important dates and deadlines. So I put it in red and bolded it because this is probably the biggest date that's coming up, which is October 16th. So that's in a little over a week from now. And on October 16th is when a lot of things start to get locked in. So I highlighted 3 in particular because these tend to be the most relevant to undergraduate students. But just to say them out loud, the first is the deadline for undergraduates to drop a semester course via self-service without a grade of W, which we'll talk about later. It's also the deadline to elect credit, no credit, or change credit, no credit for a regular graded course. And it's also the deadline to file your intent for grade replacement for a semester course. Some additional dates are the priority registration for winter and spring, which starts November 30th and opens for everyone on December 10th. And as many of you already know, final exams December 11th to the 18th. And so we'll talk a little bit more about each of these in detail, and Pam will actually talk about a lot of these in the really fine details. But for now, definitely mark your calendars for October 16th and maybe include these other dates in there as well. Just to define these terms a little bit more, because maybe you're unsure of what they mean. So a grade of W means that you've been approved to withdraw without credit after the drop deadline, and the W will appear on your transcript, but it will not affect your GPA. For credit, no credit, the credit, no credit courses are not counted towards your GPA, but they are included in your total credit hours. However, to get credit, you need to get a C- or better in that course. And grade replacement allows you to retake a course in order to replace the original grade you received in that course. However, there are quite a few different policies and restrictions specific to grade replacement. For example, if you're trying to retake a course, it has to be the exact equivalent of the course, in some cases, the exact same number, course number for that. And so there's a lot of nuance to that policy. So definitely, if that's something you're interested in, reach out to an advisor so that they can walk you through the process, and definitely reach out to your college as well to make sure that you're doing all the necessary paperwork and those types of things. But I put here that you should meet with an advisor well in advance for all of these things because they often require signatures, in some cases all the way up to the level of a dean. And to get those the day of or the last minute can be extremely difficult. And so I recommend that if you're even considering some of these things, to make sure that you meet with your advisor well in advance to make sure that you can actually get the signatures and the required paperwork in on time, right? So even though the deadline may be the 16th, if you try and do everything on the 16th, it's going to be so difficult to get through. So definitely do all of these things in advance. But with that, I'm going to turn the mic over to Pam so she can talk about really the fine details of many of the things that I touched on and definitely give you a much more in-depth overview of all of these things that I personally could not provide at the time.
Hello, everyone. So I want to make sure a point of clarity for Kiera, is it Raya or Riaya, Dejan, and Diamond? Are you all first-year students? Or any sophomores, juniors, and seniors among us? Miss Jasmine, clarity.
Yep, Raya's a first year, but then Kiera and Diamond are not.
Okay, all right. Diamond, did you have a question? I saw your hand was raised, but I wasn't sure if it was an accident or on purpose. Okay, thank you, Deja. Oh, okay, so I have some, so you all know some of this stuff. Oh, no worries. Okay, thanks. So a lot of this stuff you all probably know already. Thank you all so much for helping me clear up who was real and who was not. I appreciate that. But please stop me at any time to let me know if you have questions. And Brian, if you could help me, I guess, look in the comments as I'm talking, and I'll try not to hold you all along, but there are a lot of things that you all probably know. But if you have questions, again, stop me. Brian has covered a lot of the things that I have on here. It's really just a matter of, I want to give a little bit of background behind what you know to be true. For instance, we know, and for my first year students, Raya, and then the other three, we know that there is a drop deadline. And so on that 8th week, if it's a full semester course, you can drop a class for, as Kim Brown would say, for a good reason, a bad reason, or no reason at all. Okay. And if it's an 8-week course, whether it's the first 8 week or second 8 weeks, you have the 4th week that you could drop the class. At least up to the 4th week. And so Brian has provided you with those dates. However, those dates are different than the financial date. And so if you don't get financial aid, not such a big issue, but if you get financial aid, it can make a difference. Basically, for financial aid, the deadline for any kind of changes to your financial package kind of occurs up to the 10th day of class for a full term class, and up to the 5th day of class for a second half class. And I'm going to go to the next slide so you can see a little bit more of what I mean. So I'm trying to provide you with some visuals of what I mean. Brian, if you could go to the next one, that would be great. Or do I have control of it? How do
I do it? Sorry about that. I think I'm still controlling it, but okay, there we go.
Okay, great. And so you have the add dates, we have the drop dates, and then changes. So again, when it comes to finances and academic, but financial, it just means that it would affect it means that if you were adding a course or dropping a course within the first 10 days of classes, you may notice on your financial record that it'll affect how many hours you're paying for. Pretty much if you have MAP grant, they want you to have 15 hours, at least, by that 10th day. So if you make a change on the 11th day, it's not going to necessarily affect your financial aid in the sense of MAP won't be taken away. But if you do it within the first 10 days and you have 14 hours or 13 hours, maybe $132 or so times 2 or 1, however many hours you have, will be what you will receive from MAP grant. For any other financial aid, if you're a full-time student between 12 and 18 hours or whatever, or 12 and 21 hours, whatever it is, you won't have any changes with your financial package. The biggest thing I want you to know, though, that deals with financial, but academically, you have 8 weeks to make that decision. And so my challenge or my charge really for the whole point of my conversation is that whatever changes you need to make, try to get clarity on where you stand in your classes now, between now and October, is it 19th, Brian? Whatever that deadline is, let's make sure that I have it in my brain here. Yeah, by the 16th, that Friday the 16th, that you know what you want to do so that you have the power to make the decision on whether you want to drop or add a course. As far as changes though, I always recommend that you talk to, if you get financial aid, to the financial aid office. And the reason why, and I have questions that I would want you to share or ask the financial aid advisor. Over the years I've had, and Brian, that's the next slide. Over the years, we've had friends in financial aid, but a lot of different people have changed places over the years. I've been here over 35 years, so there have been a lot of changes, and a lot of them for the good. People move on, which is great. But for now, I would say if you're asking about changes, here's what you want to ask. You want to ask the question that if I drop down or if I add a certain amount of hours today, will it affect my financial aid and or my MAP grant this semester, next semester, or the next year? If yes, how will it do it? If no, why not? Will it affect my 67% completion rate? If you ask the questions like this, then even if the person's at the front desk of the office, they're going to have to do some math or get with a financial aid advisor that can answer your questions more thoroughly. This is really important for the sophomores. If you've ever had any financial warnings or concerns or anything like that, or if you know friends that are struggling with making decisions, you want to make sure that you talk to them about making sure that they communicate with the person. Next slide, Brian. Here's the deal. There are two things you need in order to stay in satisfactory academic progress with financial aid. Please know I'm not a financial aid advisor. It's just that this is something that has stumped a lot of our students along their graduation journey. And there are two things you need to be in compliance or in good financial standing. And that is, one, have a 2.0 or higher GPA, which your major may require more. If you're an engineer, you need more, right? Higher, or certain majors you might need a little bit more. But a 2.0 is the minimum for financial aid. The other thing that you need to successfully complete is to successfully complete at least 67% of the attempted hours by following times during the fall and spring terms. So here's the thing. You may have a 3.2 GPA, but if you have added 15 hours as a freshman and you drop 3 hours, academically you have 12 hours. However, if you did it after the 10th day of classes, you still have 12 hours, but financially you have 15, you still attempted 15 hours. If you tell yourself, well, I have my MAP grant, so I need to add 3 more hours so that I have 15 hours. Okay, great. Academically, you have 15 hours, but financially, you have attempted 18 hours. It sounds crazy, but look at the math. If you attempted 15 hours, you must successfully complete at least 11 hours for your 67%. So if you have a 2.5, 2.0 or whatever, and at least 11 hours after your freshman year, you're still in good standing. Now you still need to work with your college to get approved to have an underload, but you're still in good financial standing and good academic standing. If you decide, hey, I'm going to add class, great. If you do attempt the 18 hours, again, academically, you'll only have 15, but financially, you now attempted 18. So you must successfully complete at least 13 hours with a 2.0 or higher to be in good financial standing. All right. Meanwhile, academically, you're in good standing. So what's the key point there? If you decided, I'm not feeling this 8-week class, I'm dropping it, then that means that you're only going to be completing 12 hours. So you would get a note from financial aid saying, warning, warning, be careful, your completion rate, your pace, you're violating the satisfactory academic standing. Be mindful, we're going to be watching next semester. Now, financial satisfactory academic progress, the big thing is it's all inclusive. It is attempted hours over the long span. So ideally, we need 120 hours if you're in LAS, if you're in engineering, 130, and anything in between if you're in the different colleges on campus. And so with that said, if a person attempted like maybe 180 hours, they would have possibly exhausted their financial aid in that 4-year period of time. but you just want to be careful to try to make your changes within those first 10 days. And then as you accumulate hours, dropping one class, adding one class tends to not affect you so much. You want to be mindful that, hey, if you drop two classes that may be 3 hours each, and you add 2 more classes, then again, if you had 15 hours initially, and you're adding 6 more hours to be able to drop the other 6 hours, academically, you would have 15 on your record, but you will have attempted 21. So you have to be careful of how many you attempted as well as completed. So when making a decision on, oh, should I have an underload, or I don't see any more second aid week courses that are available to me, maybe I should consider, let me talk to the financial aid advisor and find out what might be in my best financial option. Meanwhile, work with your academic advisor, with your college for academic things. They're not going to know a whole lot about financial aid. Financial aid is not going to know a whole lot about academics. I just want to make sure, we want to make sure that we equip you with the question that'll give you the answer that you're looking for so that you're in the right space in both places, okay? And that it's not just a world of dropping and adding. Those things are being monitored in different ways, both financially and academically. So I think if you follow that financial and academic calendar, you'll be in a good space. Because this is midterm time, I also wanted to share a few more things. So that'll be the last few slides here. The next slide is really about options. So here's the deal. Make the decision by Friday, what? October 16th. Why? Particularly for the full semester courses. If you have a second 8 weeks, you have about 4 more weeks to make a decision. But again, why? Because these options only apply to you if you haven't made the decision in the time that you have control over your decision. All these other options are things where you have to work with your college. You got to get permission. And I'm all about power. We want you to have the power to decide and do what you want to do about your academic choices, your academic life, and not leave it in the hands of somebody else or a committee to make the decision. However, Pam, I might be surprised. I didn't know I wasn't doing so well in this class. Well, there are options. So October 16th happens, it comes and goes. You think you have all A's and B's, you look on your record, one exam wasn't in. You had that MCB course, you didn't get the grade until October 20th. Well, here are some things you could do. Let's go to the next. So here are options. So for the extensions, go see your college person. See them on, let's say the 15th or the 14th, and let them know I have a second exam or I have a first exam, but I won't know the results until next Friday. Is it possible that I can get an extension? At the worst, they'll say no. At the best, they say yes. If they say yes, then that means you don't have to go through other processes. If you decide, hey, to keep it, you don't have to do anything. But if you decide to drop it, then you go back to that same advisor or make sure they make a note about it. And you say, hey, it's up. I need to let it go. And then they'll work with you to do that. If it'll take you under 12 hours, don't give up. Ask them, hey, can I have an underload? Most colleges will say, we'll give you at least one. Again, you want to look at your financial matters, but an underload, again, it means under 12 hours. But again, we want you in good academic standing. Late drop petition request, that goes into another world, right? If you didn't ask for the extension, didn't know about the underload, here is where you have to basically appeal to a committee and say, hey, you know, the deadline passed. They want to know, why are you making this decision now? Why didn't you do it within the first 8 weeks? And that's a lot of time to make decisions. There are a lot of universities that only give you 10 days, all right? But thankfully, U of I, for at least since 1985, have been providing this luxury, and I appreciate it. But sometimes things happen. If so, here are the questions that you might want to think about answering if you're writing a late drop petition. Again, see your college, because some colleges you have to meet with your advisor or you have to meet with a college representative to even get permission to petition. So you want to find out their practices. And some colleges may say, oh, no biggie. They may drop the class for you. So again, all colleges are operate differently, but don't stay out there as an island by yourself. Okay. So Raya, and then everybody else, you've been doing well, knocking out everything with great grades. You may have a rough spot one semester. Just know your options out there. As far as the next option that we talked about, with the drop petition, I just want to show you, you can go to the next slide, Brian. People are concerned sometimes about completing, dropping a course. If you drop it before October 16th, there will not be a W on your record. The course will be dropped. Financially, it will be recorded, but academically, it will not be on your transcript. There will be no evidence that you took the course academically, all right? It's not on your transcript. If you waited after October 16th or after the drop deadline and you petitioned to drop a course, then a W is going to go on your record. Sometimes students say, oh, I don't want a W. That's fine. Just notice the difference between the W and a grade, right? On the left, we see that Susie said, I am not flunking this class. Please let me drop it. She fills out the petition. She attempted the hours she had before, she's 16. She got the petition granted. She dropped the class. Yes, there's a W on there, but Susie's twin sister, Sally said, hey, I'm hanging in there. I'm keeping it. I'm fighting it. She fought it. She fought a good fight, but unfortunately, she got an F. So Susan has the 3.417 with 12 hours. Sally has 2.563 with 12 hours. She successfully completed 12 hours, although they both attempted 16 hours. Now, some colleges and graduate programs say, oh, they may not honor a W. They may say, okay, if they drop the course, they may calculate it in the GPA. Some med schools will do that, or law schools. So it's good to kind of find that out. But a W is something that you can explain. This happened in my life. I made a decision. Fine, great. An F, a C minus, a D, it is what it is. It shows, it's there. And you may say, okay, but there are other options, Pam. Yes, there are. Let's go to the next one. You may decide, you may be struggling at the end of term, and an emergency may happen where you broke your leg, or someone passed away, or there may be an extenuating circumstance. Again, go see your college. You might be eligible for what's called an incomplete. Maybe you finished everything but the final, and you just need time to grieve. You need time to get through surgery, whatever the case may be. Then request an incomplete. Now, incompletes are not for, oh, my parents scheduled a trip to give me a place, to Ecuador, and we're going on vacation, and I didn't know my final was going to be on the 19th of December, and the flight is for the 17th of December. We won't use that one, right? It has to be something usually extenuating, but it doesn't hurt to ask your college for the help. Now, with the incomplete, you have up until the 8th week of the next semester to complete that. Again, my point is this: if you're earning an A, B, or C in that course of math and psych, and you just need to take the final, great. If you bomb in that class and you just prolonging the pain, consider one of the other options of petitioning to maybe drop the courses, looking at different areas of study or things like that. Moving on to the next slide, Brian. So you talk about, okay, this is just, hope we won't ever get here. If it gets really, really bad, we can look at what's called withdrawing. We just made, whether it's wrong choices or we just couldn't get, this COVID thing was messing with my mind. I got help here, but it was just too little too late. There is an option of withdrawing. Again, colleges operate differently, but according to the policies for the university, here are some of the withdrawal conditions. If you were to cancel your registration, we wouldn't be here right now. But if we withdrew like around this time, there's a certain amount of money that would come back. Sometimes that's a good thing. Sometimes that's a financial hardship. So again, you want to talk to financial aid. Here's the deal. Financial aid would encourage you to stick with 3 hours, 6 hours, or as many hours as you can. Again, make an educated decision. Work with your instructors and your college to find out exactly where you stand so that you're not petitioning to drop 4 classes and you keep 2 and still end up with a D and end up on probation. If you've ever hit a financial spot where you're on that, a place where you had to appeal for financial aid, again, you want to be careful. That's where you get into a place where, okay, Do I have one problem or two problems? If you withdraw, you may stay in whatever the academic standing you're in, whether you're clear, on probation, or whatever, but we'll have a financial problem. If you do poorly academically, then we have an academic problem and a financial problem. So you want to probably, sometimes it may get rough. And again, this is probably not for you all, but if you have a friend that's struggling, encourage them to go see their college or not work as an island. Utilize the counseling center, get the support, go visit Ms. Jasmine, come visit Brian or myself when we're on duty over at the Office of Minority Student Affairs, just to talk out your situation and find out, and then we will give you your options and you decide what you want to do, okay? And then we'll go on to the next one. Brian, for some reason, I think I might have missed one. When I did incomplete, let's see here. Oh no, this is the one I wanted, grade replacement. Okay, and then some of you might say, you know, you all are pros, you've been here, you're like, hey, I'm doing grade replacement. I'm gonna take it, get it, whatever. To get grade replacement, you have to earn a C- or lower in the course to be eligible for grade replacement. To be eligible for grade replacement, you can't have a trouble with the class, like with academic integrity violation. We don't plagiarize, so that's fine, or cheat or any of that. So that's not an issue for us. But still, you want to be mindful that there are certain rules. You can only do up to 10 hours of grade replacement, and I think only up to 4 classes, I think, for requesting grade replacement. Here's the deal about grade replacement. Yes, it is an option. And so in this case, we see on the left, the original grade was an F in Psych. And so, of course, the student decide, hey, I'm going to retake that course. And they retook it in a different semester, and they earn a C+, which is great. Here's the deal. On your transcript, the F will remain. You won't get, the credit won't show up, and that's not the value that will be shown for, will be used, but the F will be on your transcript and the C+ will be on your transcript. Please know that some schools honor pass or fail, or some schools honor it, and some schools, particularly professional schools like med school and law school, will average everything in. So again, sometimes dropping the course might be the better, because that way it's not on your record at all. But again, some schools do honor grade replacement. And so you have it on there that you've done better, which is wonderful, and that's fine. But if it's a course that it was a general education requirement that wasn't necessarily required for your major or a specific course, and you want to take a different course, rather than racking your brain retaking the same course again, and on average, people go up maybe a half letter grade is what the calculation that engineering has found out each semester. So on average, people go from an F to a D-, or a D- to a D+. But there are some that jump to the C+ or higher, and all of that. But again, just be mindful they're both on your record. And so different schools look at it different ways, but it's something to explain. And it may be easier to explain a W, or some schools don't honor pass or fail either. So credit, no credit. You want to be mindful with that. But at the University of Illinois in undergrad, of course, it just means that it's not calculated in your GPA, but it will show up on your transcript. That's my spiel. It's really about, there's a world operating outside of the decisions that you make. So you want to be mindful that if you're in a season where you're thinking about dropping or adding something, rather than just doing that on your own, run it by a college or advisor and ask them, really you want to ask, by me doing this, will it affect my academic journey? How? And for financial aid, you want to go to them and say, will this affect my financial journey? How? And ask those specific questions about your pace. So make decisions earlier than later. Maintain your A's, because you started with all A's. So really we're working on how to keep them. Ask questions before you make your decisions to your academic advisor, your college administrators, financial aid, us over in the Office of Minority Student Affairs. Don't assume. There are ways and there are systems out there to help you have a beautiful journey. And it's better to do that earlier rather than later. 10th day of classes, 8th week of the term, and last day of classes are critical times of the semester. My recommendation is every semester, and this was something I was taught back in the day and I still use now, about the 6th or 7th week, I put the deadline on for the 8th week, but I put a reminder note to myself on my phone or in the calendar and everywhere I am to say, Pam, do you need to drop anything? Do you need to add anything? Do you need to make any changes to your schedule? If so, who you need to talk to? I do that every semester, not this semester because I'm not in school this semester, but every semester I ask myself, I have a note to ask myself that for either the 4th week, if I have a first 8 week or second 8 week course, or and then I'll do that for the 8th week. I'll do that around the 6th week for the full semester course. If it's a second 8 week course, again, those start like October 19th for us this year. And so you have 4 weeks. So usually about November something, I think is the date that Brian had on there for the deadline. Utilize your resources. We have tutoring all over the place, right? And tutors help you maintain the A, like Brian told us, and OMSA is here to serve. So there are drop-in hours. I will say that because you've met me some virtually, and you've met Brian virtually, I'm there. I work online Monday afternoons, all day Tuesday, all day Wednesday, generally this semester. And Brian works Friday afternoons, generally this semester. Usually if I trade with Brian. So you would get one of us, and our colleagues are amazing. So any of us are there to serve. And if you got good news and you want to learn about all those other wonderful things that Brian talked about, as far as we may not want to study abroad now, but whether it's study abroad, whether it's honors or different organizations to be a part of, classes that are internships, balance, because Brian mentioned the part about listening to your advisor. When you meet with your advisor, because we make mistakes, ask them, is this a balanced schedule? Ask them, am I taking too many social sciences together, too many humanities together, or too many? I don't want you to have errors trial by fire. Sophomores can tell you, right? I want you to be able to miss the fire. Okay. I want you to be, just safe. Like, I don't want you to get COVID. I want you safe. Right? So ask about balance so you find out what works for you. You look up Rate My Professor, look up different listings and find out what people are saying about these particular courses or teachers so you get the best option for you. And yeah, another part was tutors. We're here. Please connect with us. We don't have a job without you. So we need students. So send them our way, come our way. If you are good, have a friend come. We will have online drop-in hours till the end of the term through finals week. So we are available to you, but the sooner the better. If you're not sure what decision you should make, hey, sign up to be with us. And Ms. Jasmine and Ms. Jill will probably, Brian, I know we could send I told Diamond we could send they're recording this and we could send the PowerPoint if needed, but we may send the instructions. Ms. Jasmine, I'll send you instructions on how to sign up for drop-in hours. So that way, if you have questions, Ms. Jasmine, we can get it to you to get you to us.
Sounds good.
Questions? Any questions at all?
Yeah, so I do actually see a question in the chat. So someone asked, how long will it take to get matched with the tutor? I forgot if you touched on it. So when you go into TutorTrack and sign up for a tutoring appointment for that matched tutoring, you're signing up for a specific time slot. And so the tutor who has that time slot will reach out directly to you. Typically the turnaround on that is pretty quick. They get a notification right away when you sign up for their tutoring slot. So it should be pretty quick. I can't say an exact timeline on that, but if for whatever reason you sign up for a tutoring appointment and you're not hearing back, then definitely reach out to us so that we could, bridge that connection between you and the tutor and make sure that you get connected and get that first appointment ready.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions? Soraya, are you having a wonderful semester so far? Are you here on campus or at home?
I'm at home. MCV is very ghetto. That's probably the only trouble class I really have.
Wait, which class is that one?
MCV 150.
Oh yeah, it's the best.
It's mostly just me trying to unlearn like bad habits from high school. So
okay.
yeah.
Okay. Do you have you watched